Have you ever felt completely numb one minute and then overwhelmed with sadness the next? Or wondered if anger, guilt, or even moments of relief are normal after a loss? If so, you're not alone. Grief is unpredictable, messy, and deeply personal. But what you're feeling might be more common than you think. Today, I'm going to walk you through 10 of the most common emotions that people experience in grief, so you know that you're not alone in this. My name's Linda Falasco, and I am a trauma and grief therapist. I also have my own grief experience. I lost both my siblings, one 30 years ago and one 20 years ago. And I also lost my dad, my nephew, and my grandma within a 6-month period. So I know grief. I know grief both as a therapist and personally. And it's an experience I can say that can shake us to our very core and can set us on a journey that we're not prepared for. I know, at least for me, even with each loss, I just didn't feel prepared, especially if they are unexpected. And you may feel like you're in a whirlwind of emotions when you're grieving, some which you probably never expected to experience. So let's start talking about 10 of these most common emotions. The first, which we all probably expect, is sadness. Sadness is the most expected emotion in grief, and it can feel like a deep aching or an emptiness, like something inside you is missing. You might notice you're crying a lot, or you start crying unexpectedly, or you just feel this heavy weight on your chest or a pit in your stomach. It's common, and it's normal to experience this sadness. And sometimes it's not sadness just about the person that we lost, but it's also about the future dreams, the future plans that we had, and the routines that we would experience with them from day to day. And that could really bring on a lot of sadness for us. And we didn't expect that type of sadness. I know for me, there were days after losing my brothers and my dad when the sadness just felt unbearable. It wasn't me just missing them. It was the weight of everything that we would never get to do again, especially when I lost my first brother, because we were so young. He was 22, I was 25, and I was looking forward to growing into adulthood with him. And I was very sad and was grieving this future we would never share together. Sadness and grief isn't just about crying. It's that hollow ache in your chest, the lump in your throat, the pit in your stomach. It's the way that the world feels, maybe a little less bright, or it feels dark. The second most common emotion is shock or disbelief. In the early days of grief, you might feel numb, or like you're in a fog, maybe disconnected, just like everything just feels like you're in a daze. Your mind struggles to accept the reality of what has happened. Even when the loss is expected, it can still feel very unreal to you. You might catch yourself thinking, this can't be real. This can't be happening. They can't be gone. For very sudden traumatic losses, especially in suicide loss specifically, people that are left behind are often really in the state of denial and go into a state of shock, and they feel numb and they have this disbelief, and they're commonly felt during that period and can last anywhere from a few days, a few weeks to months after the loss, after a suicide loss. I can remember waking up after losing my brother Jeff and be like, is this real? Am I really going through this? I would think it was a bad dream. And it lasted for months where I was in a state of denial and would just think, oh, he's just in Florida and I'm here going to school. I would go back and forth with that. And I honestly can say I would forget for those few moments that it was reality. He was really gone. And when that reality would all of a sudden hit me, like I said earlier, like this tidal wave, he's gone. And the moment of realization was really tough in those moments. But as the time went on, that did get easier. So whether your loss was sudden or expected, the feeling of this can't be real is something many grievers experience. The third is anger. Anger is a natural part of grief, though it can be very confusing because you could be angry at the world, you could be angry at doctors, you might even be angry at yourself or the person who passed away for leaving you. You may also feel frustrated with the people around you who don't understand your pain, and you may get angry with them. It's all right to feel this way because anger is part of the process, and it's sometimes misunderstood. Even though anger is real, not enough people talk about that. Some people don't experience anger, and that's okay. Not everyone is going to go through these 10 emotions that I'm going to talk about because grief is unique. I know for myself, I was angry at the world for moving on. It felt like the world was going on like normal, and I wasn't. I was stuck, frozen in this loss. I was angry at people around me who didn't understand what I was going through. And at times I was even angry at myself for not being able to help or fix or know that my brother was going through this. If you are feeling angry, I want to encourage you, don't suppress your anger. Find a way to let this anger out, because anger is a part of grief. It's pain in disguise, a sign of love and how much you cared. So it's important to be able to find ways to express that in a healthy way. Number 4 is guilt or regrets. Guilt is one of the heaviest emotions in grief. Many people struggle after a loss with guilt. Did I do enough? Should I have called more? Or could I have stopped this from happening? These thoughts can be overwhelming. I know I replayed every decision I made. I looked at every conversation I can remember having with my brother. I even went back to when we were children and some of the things that we did when we were like 5 and 6, and would replay them and would have this guilt about maybe what I said, and maybe if I didn't do this, did I do enough? Should I have called? Should I have known? Could I have saved him? Truth is, we always think we should have done more, but grief distorts reality. If you feel guilty, I want you to hear this. You did the best you could with the knowledge and the resources and the love you had at the time. So be gentle with yourself, because grief isn't about blaming yourself. It's about learning to show yourself some compassion. Show yourself the same compassion that you would give to a friend. I know guilt is common, but it can keep us prisoners. And I know that from personal experience. So give yourself some compassion as you're going through this. Number 5, anxiety. That's a tough one. I know for me, anxiety was extremely present, let's say. It just seemed so big and it seemed unmanageable. Grief doesn't just take away that person. It can take away our sense of safety. You may feel anxious about the future, worried about other loved ones. Are they going to die? Are they okay? You haven't heard from them and you try calling. Your mind might go to, oh my gosh, are they okay? And you start letting your mind go to these places that they've never went before. You feel fearful of experiencing another loss. I know I've experienced that, and most of the people that I work with talk about the same type of anxiety, the same type of worries. Sometimes grief even makes us question our own mortality or what our purpose is, and can leave us feeling really unsteady in our own shoes. After Jeff passed, I definitely found myself panicking about losing other people. And if I maybe was mad at someone, or there was an argument and they walked out the door, or we hung up the phone and they were arguing, I really would think they're going to die, that something was going to happen to them before I got to talk to them again. My mind created the worst case scenarios, as if I was preparing myself for more pain. It would somehow protect me. It didn't. If you feel this way, again, you're not alone. This is common. This is normal. Loss can make the world feel so unpredictable and so unsafe, but it doesn't mean that your joy or your sense of peace are gone forever. It just will take some time to get through. Number 6 is loneliness. After loss, we can feel so alone and feel like we're living in a whole different world than the people around us. It could make us feel isolated because, like I said earlier, it feels like the whole world's moving forward and we're just kind of stuck, frozen in this grief. People might try to comfort you, but sometimes their words just feel hollow and they just feel empty. You may feel disconnected from others, like no one truly understands your pain or understands you and what you're going through. Even in a room full of people, grief can be incredibly lonely. And the truth is, unless they've experienced deep loss, people don't fully get what you're going through. They don't fully understand. I know, again, for me personally, I've experienced that. I've been in rooms full of people and very joyous occasions, and I would catch myself looking around like nobody gets this. And I might have a smile on my face, but felt so alone. People might have been including me in conversations, and like I'm right there in the middle of it. And they had no idea how isolated and how alone I felt because of what I was going through. I do think when we feel isolated, finding a community of other people who are going through similar losses or going through grief can help. So if you're feeling that way, maybe reach out, look for support groups, look online. It really can make all the difference, finding a group of people who understand. Number 7, numbness, or that feeling disconnected. After losing a loved one, you may feel nothing. You may feel numb. It may feel like you're outside of yourself, like you're out here kind of watching everything. You're outside of your body. You feel disconnected or kind of like a robot, like you're just going through the motions. Numbness is a protective response. It's a way that your brain is trying to process this grief in little small amounts and doses. For weeks, I walked through life feeling like I was disconnected, like I was watching everything from the outside. If you're experiencing this, if you're experiencing numbness or feeling detached, it doesn't mean that you didn't love your loved one or that you don't care. It just means that your mind is giving you time to process the loss and adjust. Number 8, relief. I know that may sound shocking to some, but if your loved one suffered from an illness or pain, you may have a sense of relief that they're no longer suffering. And then you might feel guilty for feeling that way. And that's completely normal. I know, listening to a lot of people who've been through loss, I've heard whether it's their loved ones have gone through like mental illness and suffered through that, or physical illness, this sense of relief, and then the guilt that they may have for feeling this way. Holding both sadness and relief in grief is a sign of deep love and care, and they can coexist. Number 9, yearning and longing. You may find yourself desperately longing for just one more moment, one more hug, one more conversation. You might replay memories in your head or even dream about your loved one. This longing is a natural way that your heart continues to hold on to love. There were days that I would have given anything. I still honestly would give anything to hear my brother Jeff's voice, to hear Michael's voice, to hear my dad's voice, to have one more hug, one more inside joke, one more. That longing can be so overwhelming. It's our heart's way of holding on to that love. Number 10, hope. Here's something that I never believed in the early days of my grief, that there was hope. I never believed that there would ever be light at the end of the tunnel. I thought it would just be constantly dark. But what I learned over time, that grief changes. You may start to feel moments of peace, glimpses of hope, even happiness again, that may be partnered with guilt. And you may go back and forth with that. Again, normal. When you have these moments of happiness and joy, this doesn't mean that you're over your loss or that you've moved on. It just means that you're learning to carry it differently. You're growing with your grief. Healing isn't about forgetting, but it's about integrating our grief into our life with love and resilience. Love never truly leaves us. It's important to realize that the way we can honor our loved ones that we've lost isn't by staying stuck in the pain, isn't feeling guilty and crying all the time, but it's by carrying their memory with us, by living in a way that would make them proud. I have lots of clients who get stuck, and I know that I did myself when I would start to experience these glimpses of joy and I would catch myself being happy. I would think that, wow, I betrayed them in some way. But I've learned that that was not true. And I learned how to carry my brother's memory with me and how to honor them, both my brothers and my dad, and to make them proud. And I encourage you to do the same. If any of these emotions resonate with you, please know that your feelings are valid. Grief is not a straight path. It is a journey of ups and downs and winding and curves, and it's all over the place. It's not just this 1, 2, 3 step thing either. So be patient with yourself. Know that this is all normal. Remember, you're not alone. I'd love to hear from you. What emotions have you experienced in your grief? Let's keep this conversation going. Let's keep talking about this. Let's keep it going in the comments. Let me know how you are feeling, how you have experienced grief. And if this video has helped you, please like, share, and subscribe for more support on your grief journey. If you're looking for extra supports, there'll be links below in the description for a free newsletter if you'd like to sign up, as well as there's 2 journals, Mending Piece by Piece After Suicide Loss and Mending Piece by Piece Navigating Grief with Hope, that you could purchase on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Until next time, continue mending piece by piece, one step at a time.